Tonight we are talking about the challenges in finding early stage investor capital for a startup company. My name is Jim Connor. Welcome to Game Changer Silicon Valley. In this segment we will move to the other side of the table to gain insights about the risk and rewards in investing in a startup company. We have three distinguished investors with us tonight: Alicia Castillo-Halley, a serial entrepreneur and angel investor; Diane Palm, who has 20 years of experience with HP, Apple, and Amazon; and John De La Pena has been an angel investor for the past 10 years. Alicia, Diane, and John, welcome to the show. You, as angel investors, all meet companies at these events, and I'll go to you, Alicia. What do you look for in that first meeting when you meet them?
Well, the first thing that I look for is the preparation. How have they prepared for this meeting? My time is very expensive and important to me, so I want to know that they respect my time. And then I go into the details of the deal itself. But I invest in people, not in deals.
You have pretty high expectations for the first meeting, but it seems that many entrepreneurs feel that it's a social first meeting. I'm going to shake hands. I want to give you an elevator pitch, as we call it.
Yeah, sometimes that's true. But you know, when you have 60 deals or 60 people that are sending you deals every month, you really need to be efficient with your time. But if you really want to ask for capital, you need to be prepared.
Okay. So John, you've been in the motorsports racing industry. You've raised money there. You've run these cars. You raised $40 million at one point. What is the most essential element that you look for when you first meet that entrepreneur?
Well, I think, the initial impression, you only get one chance at making a first impression. So I think, as Alicia just mentioned, it's very, very important to make sure that the person is prepared. I want to know that they're prepared, that they understand the subject matter, they understand what I'm trying to do, what my goals are. As angel investors, we spend our own money as opposed to VCs that spend someone else's money. Not that they're any less careful than we are, but we have a limited amount of funds to invest, so we want to be careful about that. My next step is to make sure this person can execute on the plan that they say they have, right? And how can they execute? Can I counsel this person? Are they open to suggestions? Are they open to help? Are they open to mentoring if they need it? And what is my perception of this person operating under a lot of pressure? Are they going to be able to withstand the pressure and be there when things get tough and stay there for the long run? And ultimately, I think regardless of the business you're in, you're paid to perform. And in motorsports, we have very specific key performance indicators, and they're very immediate. I'm used to working under pressure. I like that myself, and I expect someone else to be able to withstand that kind of pressure if they want me as an investor, as a partner, as a mentor. If they're not willing to take that kind of help, then I probably would invest in them.
So Diane, you've got some deep experience as a program manager at big companies. And I wasn't aware of how much pressure you're under at times, also until I talked to you about it. But it sounds like you're under tremendous pressure, and that same pressure moves out to entrepreneurs. Is there a, shall we say, a connection or a correlation there?
Absolutely, and it all has to do with understanding the goal that is you're trying to meet and what it takes in order to actually get there. So there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes into running a large-scale program, running a business. All of that is the work that needs to happen up front. And one of the things that I look for when I'm talking to entrepreneurs or I'm talking to companies is I probe quite a bit to try to see how well do they understand the size of the project that they're taking on, or the size of the market that they're taking on, or the development that they expect to do. If they haven't thought it all the way through, and there are some gaps in there, then it becomes, are they willing to admit that they haven't thought it all the way through? Not a fake it till you make it kind of thing, but more of a, yeah, okay, I should think about this more, I should think about that more. And going through that process and really understanding the size of the effort that's going to get taken on, I think, is one of the things that I really look for.
That's a pretty interesting concept, because I have the perception that if they understood the size of the effort they were going to taking on, they would never try it. Do you try to bring that reality to them?
Well, I think that's one of the important roles of a good advisor and a good mentor, is to help really fill those gaps in terms of the knowledge base, and then say either this is something you need to learn, or you need to go hire a certain person that's going to help you understand it. But founders in and of themselves are optimists. They have to be. And that's another thing that I'm always looking for, is you want them to be optimistic. But a little bit of pragmatism goes a long way, particularly if they're taking my money or somebody else's money as opposed to putting their own in.
So Alicia, what led you, now we had you on our first show, and you talked about your own entrepreneurial startup experience as a CEO, and then you decided this was, you were going to work down in Chile, and you formed a venture fund down there to make the funding of the various startups easier. Did you find any, have you found any principles that you apply to all companies as a filter, shall we say that? I think we all have principles for filtering out hot air or other, we might describe it in different ways. Do you have a particular filter that you touch?
Actually, I do, and that's a very interesting question, because in the different roles that you take, if you're a family member, you take one filters, or if you're a friend, and if you're an angel investor, or if you manage a VC, you just take different filters. But first of all, I need to understand, when somebody wants my money, how are you going to prove that you've earned it? How have you earned it? That's important to me, and then how they respond to the question is very important. I want them to show me some sweat equity. You have thought about the plan, but what else have you done? I see a lot of so-called entrepreneurs. I say, well, can you sponsor me to go to a conference, or can you sponsor me to do this? And I'm thinking, okay, what have you done to deserve me to sponsor you? So that is important to me. I also look for some experience in the industry. There's a lot of people that think I'm going to do this, and they don't know what goes on in that industry. It goes back to the groundwork. How do you go and check that up? And then I also want them to think there has to be an exit. What's in it for me? There has to be an exit. It's very interesting, because some people think that because I'm an angel investor, I shouldn't expect to be rewarded. And I do expect to be rewarded. That's very important to set the record straight. So those are the three things. Why have you earned that? What experience do you have in your industry? And what is the exit? How do I get rewarded for believing in you?
So John, because I know you through some past associations, I know that you like to see accomplishments on a person's resume. Is that a correct assessment?
Well, yeah, because I come from an industry where failure is not really an option. So, like, if you compare, and I think that the performance indicators and the way we operate in motorsports, or really in any professional sport for that matter, it translates directly to the way you run a startup. If you're going to have a professional team like we did that has millions and millions of dollars in sponsorship, you are responsible to the sponsors as a startup would be responsible and to the investors, right? And so in our case, we have to be well prepared. We have to have a plan. We have to be on time, because the races are on a schedule, and whether you're there or not, they're going to run that race, right? And you have to be on budget, because you're accountable to your sponsors, and you have to make that sponsorship money last for the whole season, so you can deliver the value that they expect from you. And then you have immediate indications of whether you did well or not. And so the whole process is very simple in my mind, and you go through that, you go to the race, you either had a good result or not, and then you go back and you rethink, you adjust, and you retry.
Well, I think that's one of the most important things that we want to see in Silicon Valley, which is the iteration, the focused, repetitive iteration. No one's going to hit a home run first time at bat. We want to see the determination that they're going to stay with it. And I think that you've got this in your experience also of iterating through as program manager, being successful. It often doesn't work the first time the way you thought. Do you think the entrepreneurs today that we see are fully aware and cognizant of how important that is beyond agreeing that it's important, through demonstrating it?
I think it really depends an awful lot on the industry. And my experience is really more with hardware and consumer products, so tangible physical products, as opposed to software for anything, enterprise or otherwise. And so I spend most of my time looking at hardware startups, and that's really one of the things that I don't think that a lot of hardware startups really understand unless they've been in the industry before. There's numerous iterations in a prototype, and then you have to go through rounds of engineering testing, there's user testing, and then truly the real work starts after you ship a product, because now it's no longer in your lab, it's no longer under your control, people are using it, and they're going to find things that you never dreamed of when it actually gets out into the field. So that goes back to, if you haven't done this before and you don't have deep experience in the industry, find someone that does and bring them on your team, because it's going to make you that much more likely to be successful. And I like the failure is not an option comment, because at some point in time you're going to run into failure and something's not going to go the way that you expect. So having that resilience to kind of pick yourself up and dust yourself off and say, I'm going to try something else today, or being smart enough to ask for help and say, I've got a problem and I don't know how to fix it. I think that's also really important.
So we've talked a lot of your investor perspectives here. What advice could you give entrepreneurs? I mean, we talked about be prepared, but in terms of, do you have any advice? And I don't know who would like to speak first.
Watching somebody try to raise funds and make a presentation when they're not prepared is actually pretty painful. As you can see right through it. And now with all these digital ways of communicating that we have, we do get a lot of hits. Like, for example, on LinkedIn, I have to be careful who I accept as a connection, right? Because a lot of times I accept that person, and the minute I accept it, within 5 minutes, I'll get a proposal. And so that's really, to me, is a non-starter. I rather kind of see a person that either gets introduced to me, or maybe they come through our software that we use at Sand Hill Angels, evaluate them that way, maybe have a conversation or two over the phone, and then look at what they're trying to do and evaluate it that way. But I don't like that sort of shotgun approach.
You did some preparation. Did you get an introduction one way or another, like find somebody that you know who knows somebody and get an introduction that way?
The sponsorship game is very, very difficult, and I was fortunate enough to have some major companies on board that believed in us and invested money in our team because they had a promotional value that they got back out of it. But the way I did it is I had no pride. I mean, I talked to anybody and everybody that I knew and sort of spent, if you will, that immediate circle of influence that I had. And then from there, I tried to get outside of that. And through people that I knew, I met enough people that I got to the top decision makers in these companies and was able to present the programs.
I'm going to one more round with you. Did you get coaching feedback of what you were doing okay and what could be improved on?
I did get a lot of coaching feedback, and I always welcome that because I wanted to get better. So I'm very coachable, actually. I have a very strong mind, and I expect that on CEOs and founders, and I expect them to be strong, but also I expect them to be open.
I want to touch upon something else that we've been discussing. Dreams are cheap. Goals are difficult. So focus on the goal, not on the dreams. And we have this hype about entrepreneurship and venture capital, and you're going to show, and you're going to glow, and everybody's going to love you. Well, that's not the way it happens. You need to get with the program, and that's really, really important. But having said that, if you're very passionate about something and you do your work, people are going to get out of their way to help you. And that's where the mentoring, that's where you expand your horizons, because people would help you, but you have to be prepared, you have to be resilient, and you have to respect their time.
So Diane, are you're able to bring a great deal of hardware experience in this program management process to let them know what they're really in for, even though they may be in denial in the beginning, and you bring some resources also potentially from the corporate world, I guess. Is that correct? So are you expanding into any particular industries?
So hardware is the place that I know the best.
And is that consumer hardware, right?
Consumer hardware in particular,
and
yes.
What's a good example of that range of consumer?
So my last gig was the Amazon Kindle, and then also I spent some time at Apple. So, a lot of the things that are on your desktop or in your pocket are things that I've worked on over time. So I like technology that's either consumer-centric or is somehow enabling consumer technology. So on the other hand, if there's an interesting deal in front of me and there are some other really intelligent people also looking at the deal, I'm happy to have a look. But one of the reasons why I belong to a group of angel investors is because I know that I don't know everything, and it's really helpful to have other people around that have more expertise in a particular area, and collectively I think we're able to really take a good look at a particular opportunity and then really provide good help and feedback and support to an entrepreneur should we decide to invest.
It's a really serious business. It takes a long time.
True.
It takes a lot of resources. It takes money you paid after taxes. It's a very serious business, and you can only do so much. So it's something that you all have to be careful with. So I've recognized that. Well, I'm going to thank all of you. Alicia Castillo. Hi, what's your contact information?
Well, you can look for me at LinkedIn, but I also have my website, Alicia
yeah.
Castillo Holly, and I have a program for women.
Women
Get funded. I want to work with women at the moment.
All right. And John, what's your contact information?
Usually LinkedIn is the best
You're
way.
going to keep that open now.
I'm very selective, but I look at everything that comes through. So that's usually the best place. I don't want to give my email address, otherwise I'll get flooded. But and of course Sand Hill Angels, sandhillangels.com. They can find me there.
Good. And Diane?
Also on LinkedIn, you can find me there, and
Okay.
also sandhillangels.com.
It's been great. It's been delightful. We'll have to have a follow-up, and thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Great.
This is Jim Conner. I'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Game Changers Silicon Valley. Each week we'll address an area of innovation that may emerge as a game changer of tomorrow. You can follow us on our website, gamechangers.tv, Facebook, or Twitter. We look forward to your continued interest in upcoming shows.